When someone says Hyundai, they usually think of the Hyundai Starex or maybe its successor, the spaceship-looking Staria. You might even think of the Hyundai Stargazer MPV that's really popular. But they also have another car that's a little bit less popular but equally as good looking, and it is this crossover SUV right here. This is the 2023 Hyundai Tucson 2.0 GLS. Let's give this car a review. So before we talk about anything else about the Hyundai Tucson, let's first talk about how it drives. And this car is just really refined. I didn't expect a drive like this from a car of this price point. Granted, this car is not cheap, but honestly, it feels more like a car from a premium brand. Think about some of the entry-level European cars. It feels like that. The fit and finish feels absolutely amazing as you're driving down at high speeds. It's also extremely quiet. NVH, let's talk about that. So you barely hear any noise in this vehicle except for one place. For some reason, Hyundai has almost completely ditched any sort of noise insulation here at the roof. So lately it's been raining a lot, and this has the noise insulation of a motorcycle helmet from the top. Yes, even if it's just raining a little bit, I could barely hear my passenger speak to me. It's crazy. Vibrations wise though, this 2-liter mill is just really smooth, and as for harshness, it is a little bit on the firm side, but it really gives you a very composed driving experience. Even if you have some sort of motion sickness, you're not going to have any issues inside the Hyundai Tucson. Power is also really well. A lot of cars nowadays in this class, they have like a 1.5-liter engine, but nothing replaces displacement, and this 2-liter engine just gives you some extra kick, some extra torque, and as you're going at your high RPM, it doesn't run out of juice. My only complaint with this powertrain is I'm not exactly sure if it's the transmission or the throttle mapping, but when you accelerate and you step on the throttle 25%, it has this delay. Then after about a second or so, without even changing or without even adding extra throttle input, it suddenly revs so high in normal mode. So the only way to remedy that is to either put it into sport mode to give you a faster response, or to put it into eco mode, which dulls everything down. That way you don't get that sudden surge in power. As for handling and steering, the Hyundai Tucson is also very composed. I said earlier that the ride is a little bit on the firm side, but the positive trade-off for that is you get pretty decent handling. Despite this car weighing over 2,000 kilograms, it still is a pretty nimble car to drive. It doesn't roll too much over corners. It doesn't really hop. It's good. Even if you corner this car fast at 60 and above, if you want to go over bends at over 100 kilometers per hour, the body still remains pretty damn planted. Also, the steering, despite using an electronic power assisted steering system, it still gives you pretty good feedback too, and it's not too light nor too heavy. It feels like a traditional hydraulic steering system, which is always a good thing. However, the biggest complaint I have with the Hyundai Tucson is the lack of any sort of advanced driver assistance systems. Usually at this price point, you would pretty much expect it to have the full suite. And what do I mean by that? Adaptive cruise control, autonomous emergency braking, blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist and lane departure warning, or at least rear cross traffic alert. But the Hyundai Tucson doesn't have a single one of those, not even your blind spot monitoring system. That is quite ridiculous for 2023, especially since you get cars 3/4 of the price of this with the whole package. The first time I saw this vehicle, I wasn't really a big fan of it. I thought that it looks a little bit too complicated on the exterior with too much geometric patterns, but the more I look at it, the more that it reminds me of like the Hyundai Ioniq 5 or the Hyundai Ioniq 6, two very futuristic and beautiful looking vehicles. Anyway, exploring this car from the front, it has a really long hood for the size of this car, so it has some sort of a sporty appeal to it. Your grille is also very complicated, painted in black chrome, and interestingly enough, on either sides of the grille, you have your DRLs right there. So it is just so unique. I haven't seen any other car with rear Ls right here. Now, move further down below and you also get LED headlights. On the side of the vehicle though, this is where all those patterns come in. I'm really liking now this wide arch that instead of just having like flared fenders, they carry that over to your doors. You have these like moldings on the bottom to give it a more rugged look. You have chunky 18-inch tires, Nexen tires, wrapping your 18-inch rims. If you want bigger rims, 19 inches are available, but only for the diesel trim. You also get some black roof rails on the top, and you even get repeaters on your wing mirrors. Towards the rear of the Tucson, what will really stand out is this light bar, and even have these like claw patterns on either sides. These are all LEDs too, but your fog lights at the bottom, they are only halogens. Also, if you take a look at your Hyundai badge, it is flat, so it kind of is under the piece of glass. That really is interesting. You also get a spoiler on the top. You have a third brake light, and you might think, okay, where is the rear wiper? Well, it's actually intelligently tucked inside. That is just a really nice touch. It gives it a more refined look. Now here at the back, you also get a reverse camera and reverse sensors. Now once you open up this trunk, well, unfortunately it isn't power opening, but you do reveal a really big trunk or cargo area. This is in fact one of the biggest in its class, and you even have a parcel cover that's also adjustable. You can choose between more recline, or I don't know why you're gonna want a longer parcel cover. Anyway, under this false floor is also a full-size spare tire. Convenience features wise, you even have a 12-volt outlet here at the back, and you even have these like pull handles for you to fold down those rear seats. That way you don't really have to go all the way over to the second row just to pull them down. Now for the powertrain, you have this 2-liter gasoline engine making 156 horsepower and 192 Newton meters of torque, paired to a 6-speed automatic. Now this Tucson is also available as a diesel, and usually you would expect a diesel to have more torque but less horsepower, right? But oddly enough, the diesel variant of this vehicle gets considerably more power at 180 plus horsepower and 460 Newton meters of torque. So Hyundai kind of shortchanged us with this 2-liter gasoline engine, but at least fuel economy wise, you can still return 6.2 kilometers per liter in the city and a pretty respectable 16.6 kilometers per liter on the highway. Now here inside the Hyundai Tucson, first check the door. Sounds really good, surprisingly. Anyway, now inside here, you have an interior that really feels very well built. I mean, all of these materials that they've used, they feel very high quality, also soft touch. You'll be hard pressed to really find a panel that is hard touch plastic. There are still some of them, but they are very minimal. Even your steering wheel, the leather wrapping on it, it's very thick too. I love all the spokes on it. It feels very clean, looks like a luxury car. And you even have a 10.25-inch digital instrument cluster with Eco, Normal, and Sport mode. Towards the center though, you have this 8-inch touchscreen with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and this is also where you will find your reverse camera with guiding lines. The resolution isn't the highest out there, but it is more than usable. I also really like how Hyundai really maintained this separate panel for your AC system. It just is so much easier to use. There's also this very interesting diffuse mode, but I couldn't really find out what it does exactly aside from turning on the air vent plus the feet selection for the airflow, and that's about it. There are these like tiny holes though on the dashboard, and if you put your finger there seems to be some air coming out of it, but there is air whether or not you turn on the diffuse button. Kind of weird, right? Anyway, moving further below, and you have a wireless charging pad. You have a 180 watt 12 volt socket, so you can even charge your MacBook Pro here. You get 2 USB ports, you get 2 cup holders, and you have a regular shifter, electronic parking brake, hill descent control, auto hold, and a camera button. What I really have to commend the Hyundai Tucson for are its seats, because it just feels so ergonomic. It gives you so much support. The thigh support is perfect. Even the bolsterings, they really do hold you in place, and the leather wrappings on it, they also feel very high quality. Even the perforations look really good. But the biggest complaint with it is that for this price car, how do you not even get a power seat function, not even the driver's seat. So it's all manual all the way. That simply is crazy. You also don't get a sunroof up top, but at least you do get 7 airbags, including what is supposedly a front thorax airbags or the curtain airbag on the center between you and your passenger. That way you don't bang into each other in the event of a collision. Now for the second row seats of the Hyundai Tucson, let's first check the ingress. So getting inside this, there is a little bit of a hop, a little bit of a climb, because this door sill is pretty high, but the height-wise of the seats, they kind of just have to slide in. So if you have slightly older relatives, this shouldn't be too hard of a climb. Now let's check the door thud. That also sounds really good. Now back here, you get tons of space. I mean, like, leg room is just ridiculous right here. You have around almost half a foot, no, maybe even more. This is probably like 9-10 inches of legroom, and this is at my driving position. I am only 5'6" tall though, but even headroom is really good. So even if you're on the taller side, 6 feet tall even, no problems right here. But you don't get too much toys. You only get air vents, you get 2 USB ports, and you have this armrest with 2 cup holders. But what I really love about the back seats here is that they can recline so much. I mean, this is the normal position, and I can recline it all the way like this. Pretty damn amazing for a car of its class. And if you want to seat 3 people, it's also very much doable because the car does feel a little bit wide. In fact, this car is, despite having the exact same length as the Ford Territory, it is so much wider. Now we talk about the pricing for the Hyundai Tucson. Well, this Hyundai Tucson in this gasoline trim, the 2.0 GLS, comes in at 1,560,000 pesos. While it is a beautiful looking car and also a very refined and well-built feeling car, the fact that it's so lacking in features is pretty hard to justify. So unless you're really a big fan of, well, brands that have already been established here in the country, I think that there's a lot of other cars in the market that can give you a better deal.